The adult beverages are poured and the babies are asleep. It is time for New Dad Gaming, a show about gaming, fatherhood, and new fathers trying to figure out their gaming lives. As always, my name is Trevor and I have a 5 month old.
Uh, my name is Gavin. Apparently, everything's gone red.
Jeez.
From the seventh circle.
Take it easy there. Don't be so serious.
What's going on? Oh, camera, you okay? Just a sec, guys. There. Okay, anyways, I have a 3-month-old. My name's Gavin.
Yes, I'm Jeff, 2.5, and a 5-year-old.
For the listeners of the podcast, Gavin a la Halloween had his entire face light up in just red.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This is...
It's great. Special effects. We get special effects.
Trust it? I'm not sure.
So if we're gonna cover the spectrum, that means maybe I'll go blue, Jeff if you go green.
Sure.
That's-
I'll do it.
I don't know.
Like the Hulk.
Yeah,
For
okay.
further differentiate. All right, so everyone, the nuclear bomb has gone off.
Oh,
Everyone.
that's what happened. He's all lit up.
Oh, he's on theme. That's amazing. He's red from the radiation poisoning.
There you go.
Come on, boys,
Every-
pay attention.
Everybody's in the vaults. Fallout 4 has launched. The internet is on fire at the moment. For new fathers like us, when this type of game is launched, this is a massive title, both in scope as far as how deep the game is. It's an relatively expensive one because it's a new title, and the depth of it. It is a massive game. So, yeah, fathers kind of weigh in. Like, what? Actually, hold on. I will hold that thought for 1 second. I would like to know how your week went from gaming and fatherhood up until this point, minus Fallout. We'll get into that. Gavin, how was your week in fatherhood and gaming?
Fatherhood, a lot of fun. She's going through a bit of a growth spurt, I think, right now, so that's been pretty good, but she's been insatiable. Um, like, she still sleeps okay, but when she's awake, she just wants to eat, 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 eat. But no, we've been having some good playtime, and she's still doing her rollover flips occasionally, which is good. And yeah, a couple decent outings. All in all, yeah, no, it's just been fun. Good times. As far as gaming goes, I got to finish off Dying Light, which was great. Got that done just in time for a certain delivery that came in today. And yeah, no, all in all, it's pretty fun. Can't
So,
complain.
is she in the room with you right now? Because the way you're speaking is very soothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Does she
No,
know?
no, she's in the other room, but I just don't want to take any chances. I don't want to roll those dice. I have a very I have a voice that projects, so I don't want to.
Should you should speak this episode in nursery rhyme. It'll be great.
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
there, guys. I played a game. It was
Very
lots of
soothing.
fun.
Shot a mutant in the face. Yep. Oh,
Jeff,
wow, the
yourself?
webcam's going funky.
Gaming wise, a little bit of everything, I think. Rocket League, back into that. Still in The Witcher. Still doing The Witcher. And actually System Shock 2 as a random game. I
Yeah,
had
that
that in my
is.
life. Yeah, I don't know.
How does that hold up
I
compared
had
to?
it doesn't hold up, but I think it's nostalgia that wanted me to go back in. It was only like a 20, 30 minute thing and then I got out.
That's
But
like me with Deus Ex. Like I'll hop back into like the original
yeah,
Deus Ex.
I'm
Yep.
like, oh, this was fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite hold up to today's stuff, so
Yeah.
hopped in, hopped out.
Yeah, I tried the original Deus Ex and I just couldn't.
It's
Like, I
hard.
wanted to get it. Like, I wanted to understand
Yeah,
why it was so revered, and I just couldn't get into it. I'm just like, this is so clunky relative
Yeah.
to like new mechanics, and just I
Oh, yeah.
don't want to spend the time.
That's the
no,
thing is when I played it, the mechanics were still a little bit cutting edge. Um, but when I go back and play it now, I'm like, oh, this is really one that's actually not too bad was the one that came the sequel to it, that Invisible War. It holds up okay. They're using like bump mapping and things kind of feel a little bit better. It's not as like just straight up polygons. Um, but even then, it didn't have the. It's like substance over form. and it's like it didn't have the meat as far as the mechanics goes in regards to crafting and balancing your character, but the look and feel of it was better. So it's a weird balancing act, but yeah, give and take.
Yeah.
It's like going back to the original Fallout compared to like what Fallout 4 has to offer, and just getting used to that old hexagonal, top-down isometric view, um, and what all you could do in that game, and what all you had to contend with in that game, compared to like with Fallout 4 and what's there. And it's a weird sort of comparison, like how far the series has come, especially since Bethesda kind of gave it a second life because it was pretty well like DOA. It was launching titles on the PS2 that were failing, so it's like, okay, that's it then. Um, and yeah, now that it's got this, not only does it have a new life, but a very successful one. So that's kind of exciting, especially for somebody who's a fan of the series back in '98, and then saw it sort of dwindle away, and now it's coming back with like a vengeance. It's like, all right,
Yeah,
shit.
go team.
And I whisper, all right, this is amazing.
Inside
Most
voice.
excited whisper you'll ever hear.
Yeah, that's dad enthusiasm. The time to be enthusiastic as a dad is you are constantly a quaalude, and just your whole existence and persona is to try to make people fall asleep, which is probably not ideal for a podcast. You're welcome.
All
It's
right,
like
well,
the most lulling podcast online.
that'd be a great secret sauce of the show is if the entire thing is so melodic and calm that new dads can have their babies listen to it. In so doing, their babies fall asleep.
Yeah.
So we just got to find the right balance. Find the right balance. Reviewing bloody games. So let's get into the meat. So it's here. It followed forward. It happened. As I mentioned, internet is on fire. This is the game of the moment. And I love that other game. I've actually seen a couple other launches of other games around the same time. It's like, are you nuts? Like, are you...
Yeah, I would move
like,
it.
Hearthstone came out with a new Explorer pack. Rocket League, like you mentioned, had free DLC. Although, I mean, it's not really the launch of a game, but, I mean, the day. It's nuts. But, Gavin, let's dive into you. You were the most excited about this.
Yep. And I think I'm the only one of us who went and got a hold of it.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I bought the game. I went ahead.
Whoa, you did.
Yeah, this will be the first. This is the first entrance into the series, and I definitely have some. Hold on, I played a couple hours of a buddy's game of the original Fallout, or even Fallout 2, so the old like isometric view of it.
Tactical stuff, yeah.
And like I'm not deaf or blind, so I've obviously heard and seen many references to it, so I'm familiar. But this is definitely the first game I've ever bought. But I'll get into that a bit more. Like, Gavin, I'm really interested, given your excitement, like how much you have played of it and what's your thoughts so far. How's it going?
I've played about maybe 1.5, 2 hours total. Did the character crafting, playing as a female named after my daughter's favorite bunny. And
Bringing the dad into the gaming, I like it.
got it.
Yeah,
I didn't
Mrs.
name
Hippity
her-
Hop, you need to kill those
Mrs.
mutants.
Snuffles.
No, her name's Rosie because
Oh, okay.
there's a pink bunny that we call Rosie, and she also kind of looks a bit like Rosie the Riveter. So I'm like, okay, your name's Rosie.
Not Rosie O'Donnell.
No, probably half as tough. So the thing about Fallout I always liked was the harshness of the environment you were in, and that was one thing I found the series really did well. Across the board, like some more successful than others, but I always felt this sense of a Fallout game to me, the first 20 minutes of it should leave you cowering under an overpass, trembling with fear because there was like a rat, and that was it. Like, just the simplest, easiest enemy has you terrified of dying because the world's that harsh, and that everything else in the world has hardened itself to survive against that increased threat. And that Fallout 3 did that. Even the original Fallout, I remember playing the hexagonal one and just going northwest and getting like cut in half by a super mutant with a machine gun, and be like, okay, I guess we don't go northwest. Um, and then just that climb of like, okay, I have to I have to harden myself. I need to strengthen my steel in order to survive. Um, I almost died being attacked by one mosquito and two houseflies in the first 20 minutes of being outside in the game. And this is the new one, and I felt at home. I'm like, all right, great. I'm about 25% of the way of dying of radiation poisoning because I had to drink water to survive, and a fly almost killed me. This is Fallout. And yeah, there's a really neat crafting system in it, which I think is it's very reminiscent of Skyrim because it's Bethesda. They like to hop back and forth. But the thing in Skyrim that you could do a lot of was uh, find materials like leather and stuff through hunting, and find like ore through mining, and then craft new stuff like new armor and whatnot. In Fallout 4, it's very much like that again. It's you can instead of having to mine and hunt, it's more like scavenge and murder, and then you get to play crafts. And yeah, it's so far I've upgraded a couple of my weapons and some of my armor, and I'm just kind of walking around the wasteland. I'm not really paying attention to my mission objectives yet. I'm just like, oh, what's that over there? Ooh, that looks neat, and just exploring. It's a very much one of those exploration heavy games, and if you just kind of let yourself get lost in the atmosphere, that's when the game really shines. And yeah, visually, it's really nice. I'm really enjoying it. So all in all,
And
I'm satisfied.
on some of that, like getting lost part of like that's the I have some trepidation around it, and specifically like my play style. Like I was getting into every house,
Yep.
and I was reading a lot of text,
Yep.
and I was exploring all these parts, and I'm thinking about like I know like this game is going to be massive.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there's a lot to see here, right? And it almost just doesn't feel conducive to my new reality from like the amount of time I'm gonna have to actually play this game.
Yes,
And as
but
much
there's a quick save, and the UI loading the game is just spamming X or A until it loads up. And that's the one thing I did like is that you don't have to navigate menus to load the game, and because of the wonder of the quick save, especially on console, which is rare to find. It's like, okay, I gotta go quick save, done, and it's like a bookmark in a novel, and you go back to it when you get a chance.
yeah, but it's just like the but in exploring every single nook and cranny, while it provides some tiny benefit to it because maybe you find like an extra case of bullets, great, or you read this one terminal and it's got three extra pieces of text, which gives is world building. Like it's giving you a sense of the characters and everything going on.
Hmm.
Like the thought that like to keep that pace, I'm just not sure like I'm gonna get to enough of the game, and next thing you know, it's either gonna be fatigue or this game's going to take me 2 years to finish. Like it feels like this, and this is with an experience of Skyrim. With like before I had a kid, like I think I have 100 hours inside of Skyrim,
Yeah, that's
and
standard fare for that style of game.
yeah, and I didn't even finish it. And I'm trying to
No,
think about if I
you would
apply that to this,
you
like
never finished.
I'm not gonna beat this thing. Like I'm never gonna play it.
It's a
So
different
it,
type of game. Like it's not like a Batman game where it's like I got 100% it. Like it's designed to be a world that is meant to be explored through a few playthroughs. So like, you know, when you play through it a second time, you're like, oh, I remember that going through that house before in my past life. I'm fine. I don't need to go in that house again. It was kind of boring. Or later on in the game, you start to get to explore some of the other vaults because there's a whole bunch of other ones too, and that's usually where they're like dungeon quests, and that's where you can find some really interesting stuff as well. And it's one of those games where the world building you can get as deep as you want or leave it as shallow as you want. And it really just comes down to what you are looking for. And it's like, are you looking to read up about why this vault failed? Or are you just looking to get into that vault, try to find something better to, kill rad scorpions with and then get back to your day? It really depends on the personality of the survivor and how you want to have that character interact with that world. Do you care about that stuff, or is your survivors basically just looking for bullets and canned beans and then just get on with it.
See,
Um,
my worry with that would be that where I kind of have a conflict with that is where in quick question, in previous Fallout games, especially 3 in New Vegas,
mhm.
was there this much of a character associated with your player? Like, because in this
Yes
one,
and
it's like
no.
this is very much a scripted. Like you are very much a person. You have a story arc. It seems.
Yep.
Like was that similar in 3 in Fallout?
Yeah, three, you start the game as a baby and experience your life as like a toddler, and you learn to crawl, and you get to pick all your stats through like baby books. Um, and you end up looking for your dad, played by Liam Neeson. You're trying to find him. He like leaves one day, and then when you're a kid, like he just disappears into the wasteland, like leaves the vault, and you grew up in the vault. And then now you're like, okay, well, you know, I've never been out of the vault. I want to find my dad, and you're like leaving to go find your dad. I can't remember the exact details as to the motivations behind that, um, but yeah, it's. I think it had something to do with maybe the Gek. I don't know. There was this other mythos thing in the game called the Garden of Eden creation kit. Um, but yeah, it was a whole quest to try to find your father and understand his relationship to that vault and to that ruined DC. And the same with like New Vegas. Matthew Perry shoots you in the head and leaves you for dead. So then you got to try to like hunt him down and figure out why, and try to unravel your story as to why you got murdered for just a simple uh, gambling token. And yeah, there's usually always a bit of a plot. The first ever game was you were trying to find a new water filtration computer chip for your vault to help the vault continue to survive. And that was the main mission, was just trying to get this thing to try to make sure that people in the vault didn't die of dehydration. The second one, you're a member of a tribe that was the descendants of a vault that emptied out, and you're going off to try to find this mythical Gek, which will allow you to bring like a utopia to your dust bowl of a village. So there's always like a pretty good motivation narratively as to why this vault dweller is off doing this adventure and going
Hmm.
out and exploring.
See, because I guess like so the place where I have a bit of a contention with that is when I got out of the vault for the first time and I just saw the wasteland. Like I had such a desire and such an impetus to just explore. Like it's like this looks amazing. Like
Yep.
I want to get around. I want to see all this stuff. But as far as like the world building, like and this it speaks to my own play style. Like this isn't like
Mm-hmm.
this is how everyone's going to experience it. But for me now, it feels like that story building and that context is very much part of that character that they've given me. Like that, it's like okay, so this is this big story. This is you. This is the purpose. This is the arc. And now to enjoy that and to understand it, it requires, and to some degree, some of the world building and to participate in it, right? And thus having to read some of those parts, it feels like it would not, for myself and just the way that I play, it would feel like a bit of an incomplete experience if I just blast through. I'm like, yeah, cool. You're trying to do whatever you want to do. I'm just gonna go check these bugs over here, right? Not so much that I'm like I need to be on rails, but it's just when it comes time to read some stories or figure out some of my other backstory, I'm compelled to try to ensure that I get that story, given that that's what they want to tell me. It almost feels as though it would be. There's some part of me that almost wishes that it was just blank. It's like you're Joe Nobody, no particular motivations or anything besides you need to as far like a tiny one as far as like you were wronged and you want to go off and get revenge. Okay, like tiny little plot thread to pull you along, but to have
Yeah.
this much gravitas thrown onto the top in some tiny ways for me is I don't man ruining it's not the right way to say it. It's just it is putting me down a path of consuming as much in this game as I can to get the closure I'm going to want when I play it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
in some ways it's almost unfortunate because it's like, damn, I'm going to have to do a lot of stuff. Like I'm going to have to like play all these parts. I don't know if I have time to as
Well,
a
you do
dad
and you
anymore.
don't. Like, you don't have to. Like, if you bump into a farmer and he's like, "Can you help me?" You don't have to say yes in the game. But just because you bump into these side missions, you don't have to agree to them. you can always tell the guy to bugger off and just walk off into the sunset and give him the finger on the way. Like, you don't have to be the Good Samaritan wasteland survivor. Like, you could play the game as a bit of a prick and just walk around and be like, I don't care, whatever. What's that over there? I want to look at this. Like, you can just focus if you do want to explore the main story. You can do that, but you can just be like, no, I'm just gonna walk around. And even with myself and the companions, like I met the dog. I'm like, hey, you're a good dog. Go over there. Now go over there. Fetch that. All right, stay. And I just left him. I'm like, I don't. I got a dog. I don't need a virtual dog. And I just went off.
It sounds like Trevor's the worst person to play this game.
I think it's about it. Man, I haven't even started about this yet.
Because,
And this, go ahead.
like, even the farmer situation, right? I don't think Trevor would allow himself just to walk away from the dude. He would have to help him out. And same with the dog. He would be like, what do you want? Like, you want some dog food? Okay, I'll walk 2 miles to that house where I saw that dog food over there, and I will feed you.
You are kidding. The first thought when I got the dog is I'm like, damn it, I now have to make sure you live.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need this responsibility. Damn. Like, there's a part of me that's like, is there some good feeling way I can just not have this dog?
I just told him to stay at the gas station, and it's like, oh, come back and we'll talk. That's how I treated all the companions in the other games. I'm like, you hang out at my house, I'll come by, we'll hang out, we'll chat, shoot the breeze for a bit, and then I'm gonna head back out and hit a super mutant in the face with a baseball bat, and I'll tell you all about it when I get back. But you don't have to come with me.
Yeah, maybe I'll just go to my house and tell a dog to hang out. Like,
I don't think
have
he can die. I think
Yeah, no, I don't
he's
think they.
invincible. So that might be better for you
But
to know.
But let's up this game. Like, there's this other mechanic where it's, and I haven't got into it yet. It hasn't really been explained. But as best as I can tell, you can build up your town,
Yeah.
so that the residents of this town are safe and happy.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
don't do that.
Are you
Trevor.
kidding me?
Uh-oh.
I have to like. It's
It's
bad
the
enough with
Sims
a
for
dog.
Trevor.
I saw again, like, that's just a mechanic I saw, and I'm like, Jeff nailed me on the head as far as like the way that I play, and like I don't like I've never really been able to enjoy being a crass character in video games. So the thought that I'm just going to let my townsfolk like dissolve into ruin, suffer and dissolve into ruin, like I can't possibly
No,
do it.
that's the thing. Was just don't, like with the dog, don't adopt it. With the townsfolk.
No,
Don't
what's
fall
going through his
into
head
the
right now?
error.
He's like, I have to adopt it.
They need
Out
help.
there
They need help. I'm a hero.
alone.
No. You have to play the game like Mad Max. You have to, like, yeah, I'll help you long enough, and then I'm gonna go off. You have to be the littlest hobo. You have to play as the littlest hobo, and you come by, you solve today's mystery, and then you leave. And the rest of their problems are their own. And it's like, yeah, well, you have to figure out how to grow food, and if not, then guess what? Darwin's king now, and if you die, you die.
Gavin's ruthless on this. Trevor's just
Yeah.
single tear down his face.
I
I'm
would-
not sure.
I would love to compare our characters in a couple months to see like just the rip roaring badass that Gavin is, and this like saintly,
Yeah.
loved by all person that I am.
What's
Just-
going to happen, though, is you're going to try hard to get everybody to love you, and then the cold, harsh reality of the wasteland is you can't. And they're all going to hate you because you failed them as a mayor and as a savior. So
Let me tell you, rookie. These wastelands are gonna break you down. You
It's gonna
think
make
you're a
you
good
cry.
man, but ain't
Yeah.
no good in the wasteland.
The town crafting thing seems interesting to me, but I'm also kind of like, it's like with Skyrim. Like, I would pick a house and I would upgrade it, and that was it. Like, I wouldn't buy a house in each town and manage them and stuff. Like, I don't care. I don't buy the game to play housemaker. Play the game to wander this world. I want to be out in it. And when people are like, hey, do you want me to come with you? I'm like, no, go away, leave me alone. I'm very lone wolf when it comes to these games. I just want to go and do it, and that's it.
Man, duly noted. If we're ever locked, if we're ever stuck in a vault together, I'm gonna keep my
Yeah,
eye on
that's
you.
it.
Oh yeah, no.
You're on your own.
Yep. Yeah, no,
I think we should place bets now on how long it's going to take Gavin to finish Fallout and how long it's going to take Trevor. to
Yeah,
finish.
he'll be on
Oh,
his
but
third playthrough, and I'm gonna be like
2 years.
halfway through.
no, that's the thing though. Is like Trevor, you joke about Skyrim. It was like 100 hours. My first playthrough of Fallout 3 was at around 275 hours before DLC.
That's great. Wow.
So these games, and but that was over a year and a half, something like that, where I just like picked away at it. The majority of the time was probably within the first year, and then I just kept playing it because once you beat the story, you can kind of just keep exploring and doing side missions and whatnot. But these games they're ridiculously um, engrossing, and if you're completionist on them, it can absorb more time than you have, and especially now where it's like I have the baby and I want to spend time with her. So when I have townsfolk asking for help and a baby asking for a diaper change, it's like, well, townsfolk, sorry, but I got bigger fish to fry here. So I think that also helps me be a little bit more callous with the NPCs. Because I'm like, you guys aren't real. Get out of here. Save, quit. I'm
I think
done.
so I think like with even Batman in some ways before this, like Origins, what had been great training, if that can make any sense at all, as far as just you don't have to get everything, just play through, like play your game, like enjoy it and move on. And in so doing, I had beat some of those pre-father impulses to just get everything and beat it. So I can definitely see it's a thing that I don't think I'm going to be able to. Again, I don't think I'll be able to let the town just fall into ruin and everybody die and hate me. I can probably live with myself if they're like 70% happy and like nobody's kids are like dying. I'll be okay. So there's like level degrees of it, but there's still just those mechanics that are going to be itching at me. I mean, some of the stuff like there's like you mentioned, there's a crafting system with the weapons and everything. And the entire time it mentions, okay, some of these parts are rare, especially the adhesive, so you got to be careful with it. And I'm sitting there at the crafting table. I'm like, it'd be really great to upgrade some of these guns.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I know there's probably gonna be a better gun soon. Maybe this is a waste of it. I don't know if I should waste these resources. Okay, tell you what, I know what. No, I'm gonna have a fun time. I'm gonna build up this gun. This is great. So, bing, bing, bing. Put together this great gun. Like, load it up. It's going great. And then like I meet the dog. I'm like, well, damn it, I got to deal with you now. And then like 5 minutes later, I found this much better gun, already better than all the resources I'd poured into the gun I just crafted. It's like, damn it, like it's just gonna be
This game's gonna
like,
stress you out, man. I don't
man,
know.
like it's stressful, fortunately, because it's so engrossing. Like I'm just looking. What I'm trying to do now, in many ways, is just build myself up properly, so I don't get. I get the proper enjoyment out of it. This game is so much my jam. Like I've never played one of these ones before, but I can tell this is it. This will be an excellent time. I'm just trying to. It's going to be navigating for the first couple days of playing it. Like how now that I'm a dad, how do I play this game
Yeah.
and have a good time and sleep with myself at night? Because if like my villagers die, I'm gonna have a hard time living with myself.
You're gonna build a doghouse. That's the first thing you're gonna build is a doghouse.
Yeah.
Step the first.
Guarantee it.
Now you want to talk. So I was thinking about how to. And Gavin, like, so this will be. We can phrase this properly. So, Jeff, obviously you haven't played it. I don't think you bought it.
No.
Okay, and I do want to delve into like some reasons around that. I'm kind of curious to hear it, your perspective on it. But so, Gavin, with how the first part of the game plays out before you leave the vault,
Hmm.
and especially as it pertains to us being fathers now, I'm trying to think. In some ways, I don't want to care because it's like the first 30 minutes of the game, right? At the same token, though, like, did we just give big spoiler warnings and tell them to jump 30 minutes? I really because the way that all
I think
plays
I know
out,
what happens, right? Yeah. I think
yeah,
everybody knows what happens.
Most
The
that's
of
the
the
thing.
reviews
whole
have covered. Well, at least
killing thing.
we'll leave out one of the particulars, but the main narrative drive for the character you're playing, you're trying to reconnect with your family because you went into the vault with your baby and your spouse, and that when you leave the vault, you don't have them with you, and you're trying to put your life back together, and you're trying to find your family, or what might be left of it even, and that's your main motivating factor. So that's the exciting part of it. I found, and I did kind of relate to it. Like I'm playing as like a female character, but still that paternal need of being like, "Where's my kid?" Because that is the primary drive of the character, is just trying to find their kid in a world where you shouldn't lose your kid. And I think that's actually one of the things that might drive me into. Usually, I don't care about, like, they send you on a quest and it's like, hey, get us some food. We're all gonna die. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's cool, and then I just go do stuff.
That's not the way Gavin the Rebel plays.
Yeah, yeah,
Gavin don't follow your rules.
yeah. I do what I want. Um, there's a new motivation being a parent and having that sort of narrative arc involve trying to reconnect with your child. Um, and yeah, it's pretty early on in the game. Without giving too many things away, I am curious to figure out what's where's my family, what's become of them, and will I recognize them? Because I have no idea what's gone on in the amount of time I've been away from them. So I don't know what I'm going to encounter. I'm really excited. Narratively, there's some good opportunities there for some pretty wild stuff to happen, and I'm hoping that Bethesda, and I hear that there's some pretty deep moral stuff going on, so I'm hoping that the writers had the intestinal fortitude to really take some risks. I think that could be exciting. But yeah, I think being a dad has me very interested to find out what happens to this character's child, especially in a world that's not exactly PG.
I think it was just like how receptive to that setup I think I was. So I'm playing
Oh
as a
yeah,
male character, and I think like some of the things that I messed up this name. Bethesda is how you say it.
yeah, yeah. It's the studio that made the game. They're actually
Bethesda.
Bethesda, the town in Washington.
That doesn't help me. The 17th century poet, just like that. Like, oh, of course. So Bethesda, the way that they've done it, what was most affecting, I think, for the first part was the very minute and honest seeming interactions between my male character and his wife.
Hmm.
Like it's all very, it's not very scripted stuff where it's like, oh honey, I really worry sometimes about the future, where it's clearly like setup stuff. It's like, oh yeah, it's up over there, like just really tiny interactions that really does only happen from kind of like a couple in this case,
Hmm.
and just how kind of seamless and how real that felt as far as like this is a home life.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
and then with the baby, like your interact the small little interactions with the baby. So the one thing, it's not much of a spoiler to say, obviously you have to go into the vault, so there's the explosion that happens. Like that part when it's you and your family, and if you're actually, I was kind of curious, if if you play a female, does the husband carry the baby, I imagine? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. So same thing. So your spouse is carrying the child, the
yeah.
baby, and the bomb goes off, and you are running to try to get to that vault. Like that, like that's. I want to go as far as calling it traumatic, but like that was a really affecting scene because I don't know that I've ever kind of watched an NPC character so much to make sure that they're kind of coming through, and
Yeah,
not so
it's like,
much
are you
that
still
like
here? Are you still here?
I didn't have. Ultimately, I know with that type of thing, I don't have power to. It's part of the story, so I knew I couldn't like do something to ensure that they survived as part of the narrative. They were or they weren't,
Hmm.
but to just like that constant need to like watch them to make sure they were making it through the gates, that they were on time, they weren't tripping. Like it was really, really affecting. Because not a already as a parent, so it's kind of that connection to it, but the way that they had set it up as
Hmm.
to what felt like a real relationship beforehand.
It
Like
had
it
that
was a
disaster panic feel to it, and then couple that with, well, the immediate contrast with the domestic bliss that you were going through like 2 minutes before, and just how quickly the world took a turn for the worse. And it went from domestic bliss to nuclear explosion so quickly. And that was a really fun. I thought that was a fun scene. I did the same thing too. I kept checking. It's like, where's my where's the husband and kid? Where's the husband and kid? Um, and yeah, it was very intriguing to go through that because I knew, like as you're saying, it's like there's nothing I can do gameplay wise to really change the outcome. Like I know that this NPC is going to be scripted to do a certain thing, but I wanted to know what it was. I wanted to know what fate had in store for these two individuals who I've grown attached to in a mere 10 minutes. So so far, like the writing's really hitting that home. I'm
Yeah.
excited about where it
It,
goes from there.
it's just a really incredible cross section for this, for us to be at this phase of our lives with young babies, and then
Yeah.
for this game to have that kind of plot device in it. Like it was a really trippy experience ultimately. As far as in that case, it's almost like a life simulator. As far as
Hmm.
what would happen if a nuclear disaster happened in your hometown and you had to run out with your family. Like that was wild. It was really affecting.
Yeah, it was a very powerful opening.
Sounds like
Um,
Last of Us.
It was very reminiscent of that. I was actually going to bring that up because when I was playing Last of Us, it was shortly before the baby came along. But I was kind of in that phase where my brain was wrapping itself around the idea of being a dad. So like that opening scene in Last of Us, and even just the interactions with Ellie throughout the game,
Yeah.
um, that and at that point too, I knew we were having a daughter. So just that sort of father-daughter relationship sort of thing that they had um, was it was very interesting. Um, and yeah, that opening scene in Last of Us where you're frenzied and panicked and trying to leave your neighborhood because it's just coming down around you. Um, it was terrifying. And then to look at it with these new eyes, it really does change your perspective on it. And it's actually kind of interesting. You have the added benefit of these narratives having more gravity for you, so you get more
Yeah.
entertainment from them because they scare you senseless. Because then you apply it to your reality, and you're like, "Oh my God, that is terrifying." Where before, when you didn't have an understanding of that attachment, um, you would understand, but not fully. Um, like you would have some vague concept you could empathize, but you couldn't fully relate. And now that you can fully relate, it changes how it interacts with you. So it's even certain things now where I'm excited to see movies that play on that scenario or on similar scenarios and see how that affects me now because my perception has changed now that I'm a dad. So entertainment, um, different entertainment forms and different things that I enjoyed before, I could see myself getting a brand new appreciation for because it's like getting new taste buds and being like, oh, sweet. Like I can taste flavors I could never taste before. I want to try all these things I already liked before and imagine how much I'm going to like them now. It's like a secondary emotional receptor that you get. I'm not saying that people without kids can't appreciate this stuff, but there's like this extra little level of attachment because you have a
Yeah.
personal attachment to it.
yeah, I'll be when Jeff, I'll be curious when you do go through it. I imagine at some point um, drops in price or whoever you borrow it from Gavin or steal it from Gavin, but whatever. Like I do wonder what it'll be
Cold
like for
dead hands.
you. Yeah, being a bit further removed from your kid's infancy now. Like I wonder if he'll have that same punch, or if like it's your kids being infants are so like far enough away that it's
Yeah.
different.
It's like worn off now.
Yeah,
I think the instinct will still be there, but it might not be as real if it's a baby and you have a baby around the same age. I think there's more of a connection for sure. That's not to say I will just look at a baby and just let it die in the game, but there's still the instinct there
I
to
mean you're not Gavin, so
help people, help a dog.
the so yeah, Jeff, if you want to, so I didn't, so Gavin bought it for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Huge fan. Like this was his game for probably like within this year. Myself, everything just kind of added up. I got this last minute deal where I got to take a bunch of percentage off. I had some actually credits from a different service, so like I was able to get it for absurdly cheap. And amongst the hype, it's like, you know what, let's do this. Like it's within the range now where I'm willing to just go for it. What was your thinking in not getting it?
Basically on past experience with Bethesda. like I played Fallout New Vegas years after it came out, and I think I actually rented it if Blockbuster was around at that time. So
Jeez.
I spent 7 day price with it. I can't remember, but I remember stepping into it, and there was a lot of glitches. The
Yeah.
glitches that kind of took me out of the world that it was trying to create for me. So I kind of got turned off by that. But Skyrim, again, another one by Bethesda, I bought for cheap, like $10 off eBay, PS3. Uh, Again, great world, got into it. I think most of the glitches have been patched, but it was still kind of odd in some spaces. But I got
Mhm.
more attached to that one. I've
What I
just
am gonna
found,
say is with New Vegas, Bethesda was like the producer for it, but the
yeah, that
actual
was
development studio was
Obsidian, right?
Obsidian.
Yeah,
Um, and that one, yeah, was definitely buggier than just the original Fallout 3.
yeah.
Um, but I'm finding so far that Fallout 4 is more akin to Skyrim in regards to just stability. Like there's some weird little some physics stuff where it's like, oh, that's kind of rolling down the hill a little weird, but yeah, whatever. You just keep walking.
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff online about like people floating through space or falling through the ground or things like that. I'm like, yeah, I haven't encountered that yet. Knock on wood. But hopefully that'll get patched out before I do encounter it. You never know,
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean, Jeff, would you say that like, so was it just the that experience was the primary reason you wouldn't get into it? If
It's
theoretically
more
it was perfect, would you have possibly dived in?
possibly like that's dropping like again previous experience 5, $10. I can get into it, but $80 on something that I'm not so sure would have the same track record. Even like I really wanted Witcher 3 when it came out, right? But I
Hmm.
wasn't so sure. I know CD Project Red is really good at supporting their games, but again, I wanted to wait for that price to kind of come down, get everything patched in, fix frame rate issues, and then kind of buy the game of the year all in kind of edition. So with this one, I'm just kind of like wait and hold, I think, until things have kind of, gone through the launch issues, patch and whatever, um, and just kind of take it from there. So I can read up on the hype and enjoy vicariously through Gavin the story. But again, it's
through
like a
through
world.
Gavin, eh? Not through me. Like,
No,
it's
you
gonna.
sound like you're gonna be stressed out in the world, spinning around in circles, helping everybody,
Well,
shaking.
this
You're going,
lady
I
had a
gotta take the
cat, and I had to
chickens.
get her, so I
But
watered some plants to help her cat out, and just
still stuck in chapter one. I'm not sure.
yeah. Gavin's like, I raided this boss the other day, and then this explosion happened, and a building fell over.
Yeah, but it's not like a world that can really be spoiled for you. I think you take on your own persona and kind of go into it, right? So I can wait and kind of experience that when it's kind of said and done with, and
Hmm.
Yeah, I
people have
can
kind of gone through it.
kind of continuing our conversation from last week. I can put more water on the PC gaming fire because so it works well. It works great. I was able to. I did have to mess with some settings. I have a graphics card from GeForce. Works generally pretty great. Definitely not the top of the line, but somewhere in the middle. Comes with software and it actually optimizes it for you. So every game
Oh
I've
yeah,
ever bought, it's got this button that says optimize, and it's generally supposed to go through and say, okay, well, I'm not that powerful, so we're going to turn this setting to low, but we can turn this one up high, keep this one little, wherever it wants to go. And for this game, despite downloading an update for the graphic card before it installed, it said like, yeah, we can't give you recommended settings. And like, what do you mean? You can clearly give me recommended settings. Just like lower the frame rates. Like, what can you handle? Graphic card? Like, how do you?
it's
This is
not.
like your.
Yeah, it's not really an optimized code, right? Like they're building off a 2002 graphics engine. I think I've heard, right? Like 10,
Okay.
15 years, and they just constantly upgraded it, right? So I
Yeah,
don't.
well, they gave it a huge overhaul for Skyrim, but it is still, I think, a lot of the same architecture and background.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like a little bit. Gavin, are you finding it's a little bit? It feels like your movement is almost a little bit like you're on tank tracks. Like it doesn't feel super
Oh,
fluid, as in you're kind of moving around. It kind of feels like you.
yeah,
Like,
that's Fallout.
That's
All
yeah,
the
that's that's their
Okay.
animation. I don't think they
It's like,
mocap. I don't.
yeah.
I think they just
yeah.
put
It's
in.
always been a little bit like even in Skyrim, it's the same sort of feel. Like that's just you kind of get used to it over time. I'm happy they have sprinting now. They didn't have
Mm.
that in any other Fallout game, and there's so
Oh,
many times I
really?
need to get into dodge. Um, but yeah, it's that's very much just kind of how this game engine handles maneuvering the environment. That's why I usually stick in first person too, because the walking can look a little weird.
Yeah, I got
Um,
no interest in that third person. But the
yeah,
yes, so again, to its credit, it works great. Everything's relatively smooth. It's just some tweaking of the settings. First time I ran it, little tiniest bit slow because I think the settings are too high. Reduced them down. The shadows look like garbage, so I had
There's no
restarted
shadows
again.
indoors. I saw there's no shadows indoors. They don't have lighting inside.
they did
There's like one option for
on
like
mine.
wet on or off. It's just like it's like,
Yep,
would you like to turn off wet? And it's just
Wet?
like, yeah.
yep.
I'm like, yes, I guess.
Sure.
um, yes, I messed around. At this point, it's actually pretty good, and I'm just probably gonna keep tweaking a little bit. But that part's kind of unfortunate as far as like that's something I have to do as opposed to put the disc in and away you go to the Fallout.
I had to wait for maybe 30 minutes for installation and updates, and then it was go time.
Oh, geez,
And yeah,
30 minute update. That's not bad.
no, that was mostly just installation, like from the disk onto the hard drive, just
Yeah, yeah.
so that way it's not running on because they can't just run right off disk anymore. They're too big. Yeah, I got up and running, and right now the PS4 is handling it well. Indoor lighting and shadows are great. Draw distance is pretty decent. Exterior lighting and bloom effects and stuff, like the sunlight twinkling off the barrel of my gun. It's all quite nice. Um, like you can look at the really tiny details and be like, oh well, the bump mapping on that skull isn't great. It's like, yeah, but you got to step back and look at the big painting, and the big painting is pretty impressive um, for a world that size with that many things going on and that many nooks and crannies and places to explore and homes to ransack and raiders to kill. It's to have all that going for it as well is it's a huge undertaking. And so far, I'm enjoying the exploration of it. And it's holding up graphically quite well. It's as pretty as I remember Skyrim being, plus a little bit more. So
Hmm. I think geez, I think you guys will appreciate how I got my first hour of gameplay in. So, kind of like a fluke decision. I think yesterday decided like, okay, there's all the deals. Let's buy it. Preload it. It was going to take a couple hours. I just went to bed. Baby wakes up at 4 a.m. Crying, crying, crying. He unfortunately and couldn't quite get back to sleep. So I was up with him for an hour trying to lull him back to sleep. Finally goes to sleep, but now I'm wired, absolutely wide awake. Just like, well, guess I'll play some Fallout now because I'm like so darn awake, anyways. So there, I think it was like 5 in the morning. Baby finally went to sleep. I'm trying to get back to sleep. I'm like, all right, let's dive in for like a half hour because like I'm not gonna
because
put to sleep anyways.
surviving the wasteland is
Yeah.
easily the best sleep aid.
Yeah. Anything to do with gaming. So it's like, finally, baby's erratic sleep habits have paid off for me from a gaming perspective. Woke me up at 5 in the morning so I could play a game. Fantastic. Thanks,
Hmm.
baby.
Well, you kind of get some alone time too, right? Wife's asleep, baby's asleep, nobody's running around the house asking you
Daddy's
questions.
damn well awake. So
Yeah. Dog's asleep. Everyone's asleep.
Yeah,
You can
that's why
silent scream like Gavin.
I really like getting up early. Yeah, that's because like the baby's still asleep, wife's asleep, the dog's asleep. That's when I get up and I have my coffee and I just sit and it's like quiet apartment, and then everybody wakes up. Um, but yeah, I like that alone time. I think it might maybe it could be a dad thing. I don't know, or it could just be coincidentally a few we have these things in common ourselves. But yeah, it's just that moment of like and sometimes to take advantage of that moment to have a bit of gaming too is always nice. But yeah, not
I think
exactly
it,
the easiest way to get back to sleep though is
I think
super
it's in.
moons.
Be curious, Jeff, if you find this as well. But yeah, I think it is a dad thing. I know my dad used to have some quiet time where it's just like he just kind of shut off the world for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I know that I really appreciate it when there's just a 10 minutes of silence and it's just and it's not 10 minutes so then I can do something. It's literally just 10 minutes of just down. It's
Yeah.
quiet. It's yourself and you're just kind of reconfiguring. I don't know if that's a male slash father experience. So you get the same thing, Jeff?
I think, yeah, I do get the same thing. I think it's just a human thing. You just need a break, like a stop. I used to be able to go to the bathroom and not have people knock on the door, like kids trying to get in, saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Like, even that has been interrupted with noise. So, going and doing like a grocery trip or getting a bag of milk is awesome
It's like you
because it's,
volunteer for the
yeah,
running errands that normally you're like, oh, I
yeah,
don't want to go do that. And it's
it's
like, yes,
great,
I got it. I'm done. I'm out.
great. Walking the dog at 11 at night, that's even like staring up at the sky and just looking at the planets and be like, wow, it's so quiet out here. There's nobody talking or yelling or screaming or diaper changes or so I think it's just you need an off switch now and then. And gaming can do that for you, right? So if I'm not looking at the stars outside with the dog, I'm looking at the stars in Skyrim with my companion. So
Or with your companion dog in Fallout 4.
yeah.
Except I left him back at the house because it's too stressful to bring
Ah,
him. So,
Yeah.
what if
He'll
he
just
didn't
get stuck in a
stay?
doorway.
uh, so gentlemen, I do believe that wraps us up. It's going to be interesting to compare, Gavin, your experiences to my experience
I'm
as
very
we.
excited to see how we approach this make believe world. Last time I compared with a friend, he was hooked on drugs. Not my friend, but like
The game was so
comparing.
stressful that in real life.
Way.
So yeah, just take it in strides, Trevor, and don't look to chemicals for your solution in real life. This game can be a huge undertaking. Yeah, no, my buddy was playing, and it's like he came over and like my character was like really sneaky and had like a just this dirty, hairy revolver with like a scope on it, and I was sneaking around
How's a
just like
dirty, hairy revolver sneaky at all?
not at all. It's like I get the drop on them, and then blam,
Okay.
all hell breaks loose. And then his character had like a BB gun and like heroin addiction. And I was like, all right, I guess you're playing it the way you want to play it. I don't know how you did. It's like, why did you take the drugs? I don't know. I found them and took them. I'm like, why did you?
I found these random pills. I thought I could take them.
So he eventually beat the game, but it took him a little longer. So I'm really, I think Trevor's is going to be the opposite of him because he was very like, I'm somewhere in the middle where I'm a little bit cautious, but I also don't care. He just did not care. Where I think Trevor, you care so much. I'm really curious to see what sort of experience you're going to have with Fallout because of that. And it's like,
Yeah.
can a Mother Teresa survive in this world?
Caring in an uncaring world. Let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
All right.
It's gonna be beautiful. Can't wait.
So this wraps up our Fallout episode. Stay tuned next week to find out how terribly our characters evolve and how different people live different lives in this nuclear wasteland. As always, thank you again for listening. We do this show weekly. If you have any suggestions or questions for us for gaming as a father, please reach out to us at newdadgaming.com. Like and subscribe to us on all the fine podcast purveyors. And until next week, my name is Trevor, and I have a 5-month-old.
My name's Gavin. I have a 3-month-old.
I'm Jeff. I have a 2.5 and a 5-year-old.
Want to say that again? I missed missed the first part of that.
First part of me?
Yeah, I've cut out. Unless it's just my mic.
My name's Jeff. I have a 2.5 and a 5-year-old.
There we go. Is that it?
No in-game child
Yeah.
or
No
dog.
game dogs. No. One day, Jeff. One day.
Jeff's like, I got enough real life responsibilities. I don't need any of these town folks asking me for food.
Just
And
seeing
water.
Neighbors.
just seeing me sweating. He's just like, I don't want to participate in this.
You guys are selling it well here.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Jeff's character's in a room trying to do some business, and all the townsfolk are knocking on the door asking what he's doing.
I have a quest.
I have a quest. Yeah, I have a quest too. It's called Pass Me Some More Toilet Paper.
I need some roots. Please go out there and get me some roots. Please.
Uh,
All right, wonderful gentlemen. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Yeah.